Hey, bold and the beautiful fans. Okay, so we need to talk about what is happening between Brooke Logan and Katie Logan because things went from bad to worse to absolutely explosive, and we are not even close to the end of this. Last week we watched Brooke haul off and slap Katie across the face, which was a whole moment in itself. And then this week started off feeling like maybe, just maybe, these two sisters were going to pull it back from the edge and find some kind of common ground. It felt like things were cooling off. It felt like there was a truce on the horizon. But here's the thing, it was not real. It was not genuine. It was a setup. Katie was playing a game the entire time, and Brooke had absolutely no idea she was being played. And when the truth comes out, and it is coming out, there is no stopping it, Brooke Logan is going to completely and totally lose her mind. I'm your host, and today we are breaking down exactly what went down, why Brooke is going to go nuclear when she finds out the full scope of Katie's deception, and what is going to happen when she discovers that Hope Logan has been in on this the entire time. If you are not subscribed yet, please hit that button right now because you do not want to miss any of this, and let's get into it. So let's start at the beginning of this particular chapter, which was that slap at the end of last week. Brooke slapped Katie, and it was shocking to watch. But if we are being completely honest, we need to pump the brakes for just a second and talk about what actually led up to that moment. Because Katie did not just say something mild or slightly irritating. She referred to Hope as Brooke's dirty little secret. And that is a loaded phrase. That is not just a casual insult. That is Katie reaching all the way back into some of the most painful and complicated history in Brooke's life and weaponizing it in the middle of an argument. Now, and I want to be fair here, was Katie technically wrong? Not entirely. Because if we are going back to the Deacon situation, what happened between Brooke and Deacon when he was married to Bridget was absolutely a secret that Brooke kept. She lied about it. She denied it. She turned around and married Whipple while she was carrying that secret, doing everything in her power to make sure the truth never surfaced. She was not planning on that story ever coming out. And then Bridget overheard Brooke and Deacon having a conversation through a baby monitor, of all things, and the entire thing exploded. Bridget disowned her mother. She cut Brooke out of her life completely. It was a devastating rupture in that family, and it took a very long time to heal. So yes, Hope's origins were a secret that Brooke worked hard to keep buried. Katie was not making something up out of thin air. But here is the other side of that coin. Katie did not need to say it. That is the thing. Just because something is true does not mean you reach for it in the middle of a fight with your sister. That was a deliberate, targeted hit designed to wound, and Katie knew exactly what she was doing when those words came out of her mouth. So I understand why Brooke reacted the way she did. I am not saying the slap was the right call. I am saying it was a very human reaction to someone pressing on one of the sorest spots in your entire history. When you back a wounded animal into a corner and then poke it, do not act surprised when it bites. Now let's talk about the true situation because this is where my antenna went straight up and started buzzing. Katie came in this week acting calm, acting reasonable, acting like she wanted to put the ugliness behind them and move forward like grown women. She even pulled out the whole "our parents would not want to see us acting like this" card, which is the ultimate soft landing move. And it worked. Brooke's guard came down.
She started to relax.
She thought they had reached some kind of understanding. They made a deal, they shook on it, and Brooke walked away thinking they had drawn clear and fair boundaries. No hiring from each other's camps. No poaching. Simple enough, right? But from the absolute second that Katie started playing nice, I knew something was off. Because this came right on the heels of Brooke calling Katie a homely introvert, which, look, that was mean. That was genuinely unnecessary and cruel, and Brooke should not have said it. There is no defense for that one. But the timing of Katie suddenly softening and wanting peace right after being publicly insulted like that did not sit right. That felt calculated. And it turned out it absolutely was. Because Katie had already been working an angle. She was already several moves ahead of Brooke on this chessboard while Brooke thought they were just having a conversation. Here is the technicality that Katie is going to lean on when this all blows up. The deal they made was that Katie would not hire any Forresters, and the Forresters would not hire any Spencers. Katie is going to come back and point out that Brooke herself has declared she is a Forrester. It is something Brooke says all the time. It is part of her whole identity and her whole thing with Ridge and Destiny and all of that. And if Brooke is a Forrester by proclamation, then by the same logic Hope is a Spencer, because Hope's connection to that family comes through marriage. So technically, Katie did not violate the letter of the deal. She found a loophole, she drove a truck through it, and she is going to stand behind it with a straight face when Brooke comes for her. That is very Bill Spencer energy right there, and I'm going to come back to that point in a minute because I think it matters. Katie also had this slick little moment where she said Logan was going to be a success, and that she had hope, but she said it in a way that Brooke clearly heard as a feeling, not a name. As in, I have hope, as in optimism, as in confidence in the brand. Not I have hope Logan working for me in secret right now. That is a deliberately crafted double meaning, and Katie deployed it perfectly. She let Brooke walk away hearing exactly what she wanted to hear, while the real meaning sat right there in plain sight. That is cold. That is calculated. And honestly, that is impressive in a really shady way. But here's the thing about all of this scheming and technicality playing. It does not matter. When Brooke finds out what Katie actually did, she is not going to sit down and review the fine print of their handshake agreement. She is not going to say, oh well, I see your point about the Forrester versus Spencer distinction, very clever. That is not how Brooke Logan operates. Brooke is going to feel betrayed. She is going to feel humiliated. She is going to feel like her sister looked her in the eyes, pretended to make peace, and then laughed all the way back to Logan with Brooke's own daughter in her pocket. That is what is going to send Brooke over the edge. Not the legal technicality of the deal. The personal betrayal of the deception. And I want to talk about Katie and Bill for a second because Ridge actually brought this up recently, and I think he was onto something real. Katie has been changing. The Katie we used to know was softer, more ethical, more likely to take the moral high ground even when it cost her something. And now she is out here finding loopholes, playing word games, making moves that are very much in the Bill Spencer playbook. Bill has always operated this way. Find the angle, use the technicality, get what you want, and then justify it after the fact. And I am genuinely starting to wonder how much of that is rubbed off on Katie. Because this move she pulled on Brooke? This is not the Katie Logan of 5 years ago. This is a woman who has been spending a lot of time with Bill Spencer, and it shows. I am not saying that to condemn her. I am saying it because it is a real character shift and the show seems to be leaning into it, and it is worth paying attention to. Now let's get to the Brooke and Hope piece of this, because that is where it really gets complicated and messy in ways that go beyond just sister drama. When Brooke blows up, and she will blow up, she's going to go straight at Katie and accuse her of poaching, of targeting Hope specifically, of going after her daughter to hurt her. We have seen Brooke do this before, this protective mother bear mode. But here is the wrinkle. Hope is not innocent in this story. Hope made a choice. Hope is a grown woman who decided to lie to her mother's face about taking a leave of absence. She sat there and let Brooke believe one thing while the reality was completely different. And that is on Hope, not just on Katie. I think one of the most revealing moments coming up is going to be how Hope responds when Brooke loses it. Because Hope has a choice here. She can stand up and take ownership of her decision. She can look her mother in the eye and say, this was my call. I made it because of the way I was treated at Forrester. I am not going to apologize for it, and I am not going to pretend it was anyone else's idea. That would be the strong move. That would be Hope acting like the adult she is, and refusing to let Katie take all the heat for something Hope willingly participated in. But the other option, and we have seen characters on this show take this path before, Eric being the most recent example, is that Hope goes quiet and lets someone else hold the bag. And that is not a good look. Let's talk about Eric for a second because I think this parallel is important and it is instructive. When Eric went to Katie and signed on to design for Logan, that was his choice. He initiated it. He wanted to do it. He made the decision and he knew exactly what it meant. But when the fallout started to hit, Eric kind of shrank back from full ownership of that choice in a way that was disappointing to watch. He did not fully stand in it and say, yes, I did this, here is why, take it or leave it. And that robbed the whole situation of the accountability and clarity that it deserved. I really hope Hope handles it better than that. Because if she does step up and own her choice, there is actually a really interesting conversation to be had between her and Brooke about what Forrester did to her, how Steffi treated her, how Ridge stood by and let it happen, and whether Brooke's obsession with her destiny with Ridge has ever come at Hope's expense. That conversation needs to happen, and it could be genuinely powerful television if the show lets it breathe. Because here is the truth of it. Hope is not wrong about some of this. She was disrespected at Forrester. Her line was devalued. Her contributions were minimized. And she absolutely believes, with some justification, that when push came to shove, Brooke chose Ridge over her. Now Brooke would push back on that and say she always advocates for hope, which is also true. But advocating for someone while consistently putting your romantic relationship first sends a message.
Hope received that message.
And the fact that it pushed her out the door and over to Katie is something Brooke is going to have to sit with whether she wants to or not. I also think that when Brooke goes to Ridge and starts venting about all of this, she's going to put a significant chunk of the blame on Steffi. And honestly, that part is not entirely unfair either. Steffi's treatment of Hope has been dismissive at best and actively hostile at worst for a long time. Ridge has largely looked the other way because it is his daughter. And Brooke has mostly swallowed her objections because she does not want to create conflict with Ridge. So this blow-up could crack some of that open in a really interesting way. Now, let's talk about the moment when the truth actually comes out on screen, because I've been thinking about this, and I think the soapiest possible version of events is that Brooke does not find out quietly and privately. I think she finds out at the worst possible moment, right as Hope's debut collection is walking the Logan runway. Brooke comes in, maybe she gets tipped off, maybe she figures it out from something she overhears, and she rushes over to see it with her own eyes. And there is Hope taking her bow, and there is Katie right behind her beaming like the cat who got the cream. That is the moment Brooke clocks the full picture, and everything in her just ignites. And then if Katie steps out to soak up the applause right there in front of the fashion press and the cameras and everyone watching, and Brooke slaps her in front of all of it, that is incredible television. That is a moment people would be clipping and rewatching for weeks. But you know what would be even better? If Katie slaps her back. If this time Katie does not absorb it and back down. If she gives it right back to Brooke and suddenly you have got two Logan sisters going fully at it in front of the runway, in front of the press, in front of everyone, with photographers catching every single second of it. A real, full-on, no-holds-barred sister brawl with the fashion world as its audience. That is peak bold and the beautiful, and I would be completely here for every single second of it. Honestly, it has been too long since this show gave us a truly great girl fight. The gold standard, the one that people still talk about, was Stephanie versus Brooke, and we are talking about more than 20 years ago now. That brawl after it came out that Stephanie had faked her heart attack was legendary. It was mean, it was physical, it was completely unhinged in the best possible way, and it gave us some of the most memorable moments in this show's history. That energy has been missing for a while, and I think a Brooke and Katie runway showdown could be the thing that brings it back. All the ingredients are there. The betrayal, the history, the personal wounds, the public setting, the stakes. It is all lined up perfectly. So get ready, bold and the beautiful fans, because this is about to get messy in the absolute best way. Brooke finding out about Hope and Katie's arrangement is going to set off a chain reaction that touches every corner of this canvas, and I cannot wait to watch it unfold. We are going to be covering all of it right here, so make sure you are with us for every episode. Hit subscribe right now if you have not already, and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and every major platform. Do not miss the next one. It is going to be a good one.